This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hey everybody, welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Dan Mannarino, and so just give me a little landscape of the week ahead. Just to give you a reminder, send me your questions for Zoran Mamdani, sitting down with him for our full half-hour conversation tomorrow. Full disclosure, doing the interview on a Thursday. We'll put out some pieces of it, but we're going to air it on PIX on Politics Friday night to continue our conversation with the candidates. We already have Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa. Those are posted on pix11.com. So I'm interviewing him tomorrow morning. A lot of you have already sent in questions. I know affordability is a big issue for a lot of you. What happened yesterday with the ICE raids in Lower Manhattan is a big issue. Continue to send your questions in to me. We'll bring them directly to him tomorrow. By the way, that interview with Zoran Mamdani is going to be just hours after the second and final debate, which is tonight, by the way. You can watch that on New York One or streaming on other locations as well. So make sure that you watch that debate tonight. It is the 90-minute debate where you're going to get a final take on these three candidates in the same room. You know, for much of the campaign, they've been doing these forums separate from one another. This will be the second time that they're really on the stage, the three of them all together. Okay, so that's what's going on in the race for New York City mayor. As you know, we're paying close attention to what's happening in New Jersey as well, right? We got the big race for governor. And then also we're paying very close attention to what's happening in Jersey City, the race for mayor of Jersey City to replace Stephen Fulop, who, of course, went on to run for governor and did not make it past the primary. So we already spoke to a number of the candidates, right? We spoke to Bill O'Day, we spoke to James Solomon, Jim McGreevey. Now, today, we are talking to Mussab Ali, who is joining me right now. So great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan.
Let's talk about this. You are one of the youngest people to ever run for mayor. And it sounds very familiar with what's happening in New York City at the same time. And I want to talk about the moment you're in right now. You were also the youngest. You were 28 years old when you were elected to...
I was 20 when I was elected.
20 years old when you were elected to the school board. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about why you feel right now is the moment for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I served on the school board for 4 years. I went off to law school at Harvard, came back to Jersey City. And I sort of look at the crisis of affordability that we're facing on our side of the Hudson. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we need big ideas and fresh leadership, right? I think the politics of the status quo has sort of failed us. And I think you need somebody who has a fresh perspective, who's willing to say, look, I will talk about things that are outside the traditional rails of politics and stand by my platform. I think that's what's made Zoran so successful, and that's some of the things we want to emulate in Jersey City.
So how, right? I mean, and the big question that I've had for Zoran along the way has been, how do you get some of the things you want to accomplish done when a lot of it costs a lot of money, right? So let's start with affordable housing. You have a big plan for affordable housing. First, lay that out.
Yeah. So our housing plan focuses on three things, right? The first thing is increasing density. So we want to upzone a lot of the city from single-family housing to multifamily housing to increase housing stock across the city of Jersey City. But we also want to make sure that there's a sort of trade-off. So if you go from 1 unit to 4 units, one of those units has to be deed-restricted affordable housing. Okay. So this builds affordable housing all across the city. The second thing that we want to do is we want to build a community land bank. So we already have vacant and abandoned properties. Take those and for $1, give them to a developer to build 100% affordable housing, to build a workforce housing. They do this in Newark. It's been extremely successful. Mm-hmm. We want to emulate that same project in Jersey City. And the third thing is actually the enforcement of rent control. You know, we have a code in Jersey City, Section 260, that has rent control on the books. Yeah. But for so long, there's been vacancy decontrol that's taken place in Jersey City illegally. And we want to make sure we're actually taking on bad landlords.
How would you enforce it?
So I think the biggest thing you have to do is actually go to housing court and make sure that we are actually enforcing these violations and make sure that renters know that there's a hotline they can call, but also right to counsel will kick in January. And that's another way that you can have attorneys representing tenants who are being illegally evicted.
So there's kind of a twofold conversation when it comes to housing, besides the one you just laid out. There's the people who own homes in Jersey City and those who rent. So let's start with the people who rent, because that's by far a large number of the population. How do you bring down some of the rents?
Yeah, look, the biggest thing you do is you have to build more housing. Part of the problem we have in Jersey City is the secret is out, right? Everyone wants to move to Jersey City. So like, you know, the number one rent in the country is in New York, and the number two is in Jersey City. I mean, we're ahead of San Francisco in that metric. Yeah. And so the problem that we have is, you know, there's all these new people who want to come in who are competing with everyday residents for those rental prices. So my vision is to build a Jersey City where people of all income can live, right?
Now, people said that, yes, that was true, and they built this big area in the waterfront, and then it became unaffordable.
So I think the current administration, their goal was to build a certain type of housing, which I think was luxury rentals, right? Okay. And to me, the solution is not just to build luxury rentals, but to build all types of housing, including the affordable housing. That's why we talk about that zoning plan. Look, I'll be honest, in a lot of neighborhoods across New Jersey, that would be untenable, right? Yeah. If you went to Montclair and you said, hey, people can lock down their one single family homes and build multifamily, the neighbors would be in crisis. Yeah. But to me, if we are a city we should embrace what it means to be a city. If you want a white picket fence, that is not something that is in the big vision that I see for Jersey City. I see us increasing density to support commercial corridors all across the city.
And for those who own, of course, the topic is property taxes, which many people think the governor can control, but it's really the mayor who can control property taxes. And Stephen Fulop said I had to raise taxes based on what the school board was saying.
Yeah.
You were on the school board. So would you raise taxes?
So look, we want to stabilize property taxes, but I think this is a really important time to talk about what happened, right? The governor of New Jersey cut $250 million from our school board over the course of 7 years. And at the same time, property tax owners were confused about what was happening. And I think that the mayor sort of did a disservice to the school board that instead of banding together and fighting against the governor, he sort of threw the school board under the bus.
So what would you do?
I think the biggest thing we have to do is we have to sue the state government and say, look, we need to rework the way that property taxes work when it comes to school taxes. Because right now the formula sort of disincentivizes Jersey City for building more housing. We've built more housing and have taken away state money. Mm-hmm. The good news is the current plan that's in place, there's no more cuts coming to the school board.
Right.
But I really think we need to fight to get that money back.
So if you were to win, end of a 4-year term, property taxes are where? Higher, lower, the same?
I think the reality is anyone who tells you property taxes are going to be lower is probably lying to you. The cost of inflation, the cost of goods, the cost of healthcare is something that's going to raise taxes for everybody across the city.
So it'll be higher.
It will be higher, but the best thing that we can do is make sure that we can stabilize it to make sure we don't have dramatic increases that are happening.
So for somebody who's listening to that saying, oh man, I can't afford higher property taxes, what's your answer?
My answer is, look, the cost of living is going to increase across the city, but we want to make sure if you're a homeowner, right, that you have an opportunity to build more income, right?
Yeah.
So you get additional streams of income by being able to build more housing, by making sure that we can have, basement units that are legalized so you can have more streams of income and also increase the amount of housing supply.
You mentioned Zoran at the top, right? And I asked all your other candidates this, so I'm going to ask you the same thing. And I think I know what your answer is since you mentioned him already. Do you endorse him?
100%.
So you look at some of the things he's doing, and you've included free buses in your campaign as well. Was it because of what his proposal? And would you describe yourself as similar to him in what you're looking to do when it comes to taxes, raise taxes for the wealthy to pay for some of the things you want to do?
Yeah. So I want to talk about our bus proposal here because I think it's really interesting in that it's a little bit different than what Zoran wants to do. Zoran wants to make the MTA free. We are not trying to make NJ Transit free. We are trying to build our own city-run bus system that would be fast and free. But the way that we would pay for it is right now, there's already $7.8 million that the city spends as a subsidy to a private company called VIA.
Okay.
We would take that money away from VIA and build our own bus system, which we estimate would cost $6.5 million. And Hoboken already has the same model that's completely free that runs around the city of Hoboken.
So again, to just kind of go back to the second part of that question from Mamdani, he wants to raise taxes to pay for some of the things, right? And he's talking about how he would target millionaires and billionaires. Would you do the same?
So the mayor of Jersey City doesn't actually have a way to target the rich and the wealthy, right?
Neither does the mayor of New York City. He needs Albany to do it. You would need the state to do it.
Sure, but even right now, we don't have an income tax in Jersey City, right? So there's no way to say we are disproportionately going to target the wealthiest residents of Jersey City. And the plans that we put forward don't require tax increases.
Okay. When you look at the moment right now of where the field is, what sets you apart from a McGreevey, an O'Day, or a Solomon?
I think that we best represent who Jersey City is when you think about who is Jersey City, right? This is a city whose median age is 34 years old.
Yeah.
It's a city that's 76% minority, traditionally immigrant, first generation or second generation. But I think most importantly, we understand the issues of everyday working class people, right? I grew up, I went to the public schools right here in Jersey City. I was lucky enough to go to Harvard Law School, right? And I had stage 4 cancer when I was 23 years old, and I was able to beat it. Yeah. And I made a promise to myself that if I had a second chance, I was going to do public service. Yeah. So came back to Jersey City and saw all these people being forced out. And I understand the struggles that they're facing. And I think you need a mayor who understands everyday working people.
So the other big factor right now is Democratic cities are being targeted by President Trump. There's a large conversation about should New Jersey be a sanctuary state? It's playing out in the governor's race. Should Jersey City remain a sanctuary city?
100%. I mean, look, this is the home of Ellis Island. We need to make sure that immigrants are protected in Jersey City.
So how do you plan to work against Donald Trump?
Look, I plan to work with Donald Trump when it comes to lowering the cost of living. I plan to stand against him every single step of the way where he fights against our neighbors, right? I do not think that we can, rip families apart because I think that the people of Jersey City need someone who's going to stand up and have their back.
So what does that look like, right? We just saw in Lower Manhattan yesterday, I don't know if you saw some of the video of these ICE raids along Canal Street in Chinatown, right? And a lot of folks are saying, well, he can do it. And you look at what happened in Portland, and they filed lawsuits, and he still was able to send in National Guard, send in ICE agents as well. What would your line of defense be to stand up against federal agents coming into Jersey City?
Look, to me, if I have to be arrested, I will be arrested. Like, I'm going to stand up against these ICE raids. I do not think that the president should have federal overreach to come into our cities and our towns and to deploy these ICE agents.
But in full transparency, the arrest, yes. And we had Jumaane Williams on, our public advocate in New York City, who said that yelling from the rooftop is something you can do, but he can still do it at the end of the day. So in reality, is it that he can still send in the federal agents and you would still get arrested?
It's possible, right? But I also think that right now, America is looking for people who are willing to try, right? Even with all of our ideas, I don't know that all of them will be successful. Yeah. But I think right now, Americans are looking to find somebody who is willing to stand up, willing to fight back, and willing to put in the efforts.
Do you describe yourself as a Democrat, a democratic socialist? How do you describe yourself? I
would best describe myself as sort of a social Democrat, right? I don't subscribe to all the DSA policies.
Just flipping the words.
No, but I think like, I do think there's a distinction. I mean, Bill de Blasio describes himself as a social democrat. Yeah. Abdul Sayed in Michigan describes himself as a social democrat. To me, it's the idea that like, I don't encompass everything that DSA stands for. Yeah. But I do believe broadly in these policies that right now we need a wealth tax, right? Like we need to find a way to like transfer income inequality and wealth inequality. I mean, in America, the whole idea of the American dream was this idea that everyone would have a fair shot of making it. And right now, I think that dream is slipping away from a lot of people. Yeah, the reason I ask is just I'm looking at the Democratic Party as a whole. Would you just say it's fractured? 100%. And what's the solution to that? I think right now there is a fight for the soul of the Democratic Party, right? And I think that there are establishment Democrats like Jim McGreevey who say, look, I can take money from MAGA billionaires to fund my campaign. That's totally fine. And I think there's a new wave of politics, people like my generation who are stepping up and saying, look, like, it is not okay to be funded by the same people who have, encompassed the largest wealth transfer from the poor to the wealthy. Yeah. And so we're going to stand up and we're going to galvanize a lot of people. One of the most fantastic statistics in our campaign is the amount of new people who are registered who are under the age of 30, right? Like there are so many young people who are inspired by the kind of politics that speaks to them directly. When you look at the poll numbers, you had an internal poll putting you in second. The rest of them don't have that same thing. Do you see a path to victory? I think we have a really strong pathway to victory. I mean, I think if you look at social media, I think if you look at Google trend data, which is objective, right? We have over 100,000 followers between Instagram and TikTok. We have the second highest Google searches on Google right now, if you look on the trend data. Were you influenced by Zoran to do the style of videos you're doing? I think Zoran influenced some of the style of video, but I think that we have our own flavor of it, right? That, I think we'd also say we're even a little bit more edgy on some of the stuff that we put together. I mean, there's a video of me literally dunking on one of my opponents that has like 1 million views. And I think for me, it's about this politics where we can have fun with it, right? It's a politics of joy instead of a politics of fear. And lastly, I'm just going to end on this because I asked your other opponents the same question. Congestion pricing. Are you in favor of a reverse congestion pricing? I think there should be some conversation about making sure that the people of New Jersey get money from this congestion pricing. Because right now, it's totally unfair that we go into New York and we pay this fee and it helps the New York City subway. But the people in Jersey, especially in Jersey City, have no investments in our mass transit. All right. Mussab Ali, I appreciate you coming in to talk about this. Thanks for having me, Dan. Good stuff. All right, everybody. And don't forget, we're going to be paying close attention to this race. By the way, on election night, we are fanned out across the area. New York and New Jersey, and Jersey City is one of the main spots we will be as well for both the race of Jersey City mayor and the race for governor. Don't forget, send me your questions for Zoran Mamdani. I want to hear from you on that, interviewing him tomorrow. And we'll see you back here. PIX and Politics Daily tomorrow.